In life, we encounter people every day, all of whom have stories to share. We rarely take the time to ask people their personal stories, many of which will touch, move, and inspire us in some way. Matt has a passion for making authentic connections and learning about people from all walks of life. He has lived a life of giving back to the community and making a difference in people's lives. Are you ready to meet fascinating people and hear some inspiring stories? The Matt Hilton Show will introduce you to a world of possibilities you never knew existed. Sit back, be present, and enjoy. Here's your host, Matt Hilton.
Hey everyone, Matt Hilton here with the Matt Hilton Show. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're not going to have a special guest. We're actually going to be going back over the last 6 months and pulling some highlights from some of my personal favorites, and I hope you enjoy.
Inspired, experienced, customer focused. Find a mortgage that fits your needs with Maria Leach at First United Bank Mortgage, specializing in construction and closing all types of loans, including jumbo, portfolio, conventional, FHA, and VA. A tenured team, outstanding service, competitive programs. Finance your dreams with Maria Leach at First United Bank Mortgage. mleach.firstunitedteam.com, 214-316-7915. mleach at firstunitedbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
What is your biggest fear?
That's a good question. You almost made me stutter. So 7 years ago, I had a stroke. Very serious health challenge. My biggest fear, because of that, and obviously, talking to me for any length of time, people see that I've recovered very well from that. But that my life will be cut short. I enjoy living. I enjoy people. I enjoy doing what I do. I want to do it as long as I can. And so, kind of navigating life well is important to me. So making the decisions that will not only that it won't feed into that fear, but it'll also ensure that I have a long, healthy life is important. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a deep
That was a deep answer to my question. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you have recovered. You've recovered remarkably well.
Yeah. And it was I told people it was a serious stroke because in looking at me and talking to me, you don't necessarily see that. But I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to talk again. I had, I tell folks the brain is a sophisticated, incredible thing. And there were disconnects between my eyesight and my brain. And so having to read, having to do all these things really took effort. I'm so thankful I had a support system that really got me to where you see me now.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay, so outside of your support system, there's something internally too. I was talking to somebody about something similar yesterday. There's something internally too that gets you to a point where you can continue on, right? I mean, you motivate yourself, right? People can inspire you, but you have to be motivated.
Absolutely.
So what motivated you to recover and to get back to where, and maybe even healthier than where you were before?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So there are a couple of things, and I can't divorce the fact that I have this incredible support system from my recovery. Like, my support system absolutely was so critical and pivotal to my recovery. But I remember there was a moment where I was absolutely gripped by fear. In fact, after my stroke, I had my first panic attack. And it was incredibly, it's debilitating, and you don't know what's happening. And it was a hard thing for me to wrap my head around because I've always presented as a very strong, very capable, very independent person. And so I had a conversation with my friend, speaking of my support system, Gina, talking about this incredible fear that was really starting to cripple me. And she had just heard a message from another dear friend of hers about sometimes you've got to do it afraid. And it so struck me because it was one of those things we talk about, having courage, thugging it out, gutting it up, all these other things. But the reality is sometimes that feeling of courage doesn't supersede or become bigger than the fear that you're dealing with. And that's where I was at. Like, I still had the fear, and no amount of motivation was going to change that. But somehow that phrase of sometimes you've got to do it afraid kind of settled me and said, it's not that you accept the fear, but you say, okay, in the same way that, if you're at a stoplight and you've got to go, and you kind of have to trust some things around you are going to be okay. That's the exact same way I kind of approach, even when I have to still have fear as I do something. So I had scheduled an event for a client that was happening about 3 months after my recovery. So I was about a month in the hospital. I didn't want the event canceled because it was very important to me. And I needed friends to kind of help come in and support. And I didn't want to come off as unprofessional, incapable, all this other stuff. So it was actually very fortuitous that I had this event, had to do some things afraid, and then really kind of settled into recovery and focus on what that would look like for me.
One question that does come to my mind is, when you were going down the stairs, did you stay in the same stairwell? Like, what?
No.
Okay.
I jumped across a big part, didn't I? So
I don't know.
I did.
Okay.
Going down the stairs, so started on the 92nd floor. I kept stopping with Rhonda to find a phone to call my mom, tell her not to come to me. So that kind of delayed getting down. And when I was around the 80s or so, early 80s, I was still pretty high up. The plane hit Tower 2. I was in the stairwell, and I remember I was walking down. There's a wall in front of me, and to the right, as I was getting ready to turn, the open doorway, and I was supposed to be going down the other way. And I remember coming down, and as I was about to turn, feeling the floor falling from under me, seeing this crack, like the wall just breaking open, like when you like hold a big Italian bread and just break it open. The wall is just like breaking open in front of me. And I don't remember where, when, what, or how. I just remember jumping and falling into the doorway and kind of pulling myself in. Never looked back and just ran down a hallway. And it opened up into like this little open space. There was not an archway, it was an archway, but it was a square opening. And I remember seeing 2 grown men down with their hands above their head, and the woman was standing over them with her hands like almost holding up, and somebody was yelling earthquake, and everybody else like ceiling tiles, everything was just still shaking, and everything went dark, absolutely dark. And people started screaming as soon as it stopped shaking as much. They started screaming, "We're gonna die, we're gonna die." This guy started grabbing a chair and was like breaking the window because it was dark and smoky, and all the alarms were just going off. And he's like breaking this window, and other people are screaming, "We're gonna die." And I remember screaming, "I'm not gonna die. I never had to study for a test. God never let me study for a test. I'm not gonna die. I'm gonna see my unborn son. I'm not gonna die." And I got angry. I was so angry. And I started looking. I remember like opening doors, bathroom, no, opening doors, no, no, no. And then I finally found a door, and there was a stairwell. I can pass on the stairwell. There were no other stairwells. There was just one that I can pass. And I ran back, and I'm like, "Guys, there's a stairwell. Guys, we gotta go. There's a stairwell." And they're just screaming, "We're gonna die. We're gonna die." And it was pandemonium. And they were adults. I felt like, what else am I supposed to do? Drag every one of them? So I'm like, I can't. And I just took off. I took off, got in that stairwell, and I was gone. And that's when, on that other stairwell, that's when I started meeting the other people and have that other lady tell me, you got to keep going. And that's before I saw the other lady with the purse, the old lady with the purse, was that second stairwell.
I'm going to say, any time in my life, I will tell you, I've enjoyed the heck out of my life. I was thinking about this the other day. There have not been any jobs that I've ever had that I haven't loved. There also haven't been any jobs that I've gone for that I haven't succeeded in either. So I remember one time I was managing restaurants. That's kind of what I did for a long time, managing restaurants. And I ended up leaving one restaurant for another one. And I thought, oh, this other restaurant, I made a bad decision. This other restaurant is just not, what I'm used to or what I liked. And I ended up kind of looking through that and figuring out how I could help them be better. So I invested all my time into systems and processes and things like that where they benefited. And then I got them to a point where I really loved it, and I left. I said, "Hey, you guys are good to go. I'm ready to go on to something else."
Right.
Moving to Dallas. So I mentioned that I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Through my travels, I've lived in a lot of different places, and in other countries and everything. But just before I moved to Dallas, I lived in Key West, Florida, which people think, "Oh, that would be so cool." It was challenging. Because Key West is a vacation spot. It's a party spot. It is where people go to you think Austin's weird. Key West is even weirder, right? So people go down there and they just kind of let loose. Well, I realized pretty quickly that I could not survive in Key West. There are all kinds of influences and all kinds of things that go on. And if you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, going to work and staying out until 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, doing that every single day, that's why I look like this. Seriously, that's why I have no hair and wrinkles and stuff like that. But I realized real quickly I had to get out of there. I loved every minute of that. I loved being in that position. But I look at it as another growing and learning experiences that you kind of, at some point, have to grow up, And that was after all that playing around the country and doing all my things. So I would say that, every experience I turn into a positive experience, which is probably why I have this kind of attitude. And I love it when people say that you're really positive and upbeat and stuff. This is just me. I don't know how to be anything other than this. Maybe at home you might have, Gibson, don't you?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he might have another view of this. But even at home, I really try to be like, hey, what are we gonna do? Or this sounds like fun, or let's go here or whatever. But I also look at it too as, if I'm not out there experiencing great things and people aren't able to get a good, experience from me, then I've kind of affected people in a negative way. And I don't ever want to do that. So I want people to be very, very happy to be around me. That's kind of how you make friends and lifelong friends. And you and I that would never even have known each other other than the real estate industry. So, and I didn't have to move to Texas either. So you're very lucky that I moved here.
I am very lucky that you moved here, for sure. And what you just spoke about, I've mentioned this at other times, is that, we need to be lights in other people's lives, right? And we need to help their light shine brighter and not put a damper on it. And we need to surround ourselves with people who will make our lights brighter, right? Yeah. So you're definitely one of those people who, I feel like makes people's lights brighter. And I see you surrounding yourself with people who do the same for you.
Went down there to help them, and my uncle had so much confidence in how I could help them grow their business. He was like, "Oh, come down here and help us." I was like, "I never done nothing like that." He's like, "Yeah, you can do it." Always told me whatever it is that I wanted to do, I could do. And I was like, I've never run a restaurant. I've never run the back of the house, I've never done anything like that. And he was like, yeah, we want to start a delivery service. We want to start almost like Uber Eats. So we want to do, and this was 20 years ago. We want to do something like that where people call and we can just send the food over to their house. And I want you to just do all that stuff. And I was thinking, how do you know I can do this? Like, where did you get that from? And he was like, yeah, you can do it. I believe you can. And that probably is the most influence as far as business owners, because we've got hairdressers in our family, you know, they're entrepreneurs, but never another business other than beauty. So this was something that different. And once I got there and things started going good, I was like, oh, he was right. I can do this. And that was my first brush with entrepreneurship. I went on to work for other people after that, but seeing that, that's what gave me the confidence to say, okay, well, I can give this a try. So
it sounds like a lot of mindset.
Oh yeah.
Right, went into that. I mean, when you have people who surround you that give you that positive energy and tell you can do something.
Like, no, I can't. I was thinking, where did you get that from? Like, I've never done this before. So he definitely poured that into me because I didn't have it. I didn't. So part two of that, the owner of the company that I worked for, the flooring company, basically fired me and told me that staging is what I was supposed to be doing. And I'm like, no way. I want my check every week. And he said, no, Nikki, this is what I think you should be doing because it was already growing. I was working there and my company's growing and he's hearing from other investors that, oh, Nikki staged my house. It looked great. It sold. And he's like, you're getting pretty big out here. I think this is what you're supposed to do. And I said, no, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And he let me go. He threw me a going away party and I'm having a fit, like a full-fledged fit. You're firing me. Why are you giving me a going away party? And he said, no, Nikki, don't look at it that way. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And after a year, after 2017, so October 1st, 2017 was my first official day of being on my own as an entrepreneur. I have 2 employees at this point. Still don't know that this is going to work, but it's got to because now I don't have a job. So a year goes by, October 1st, 2018, I call him and I'm in tears. Like, I didn't know I could do this, but you knew I could. And you absolutely you pushed me to do something that I swear that I couldn't see. I couldn't see it. So other people have influence on me. I cannot take all the credit, but they are definitely 2 people that have seen something that I didn't see at all.
What comes to mind to me at the moment is you wouldn't have friends in your life who called you stupid. You wouldn't have friends in your life who always put you down.
I actually hosted a clubhouse, on social media, called a session called "If You Talk to Your Friends the Way You Talk to Yourself, Would You Have Any?" And the answer is no. No, we're so hard on ourselves, and all it does is just kind of destroy your self-image from the inside out.
Yeah. One thing I heard you say a while ago too, Becky, that I would love for you to dive into a little bit more is being in your grief. Like, I think people don't stay in the emotion long enough and embrace an emotion like fear or grief or fill in the blank with whatever other type of emotion, right? So talk to us about that a little bit more.
So that's a decision I made when I realized that throughout most of my life, I denied the existence of grief. I did not understand the importance of grief. I knew you had to grieve the big things, some huge loss in your life, such as death or divorce or whatever. But the truth is, with change comes loss, and with loss comes grief. And so if we accept that and we say, okay, I am grieving, and I decided to call it, to name it, because I think when we grieve in secret, when we don't tell anybody we're grieving, when we don't acknowledge to ourselves, I'm grieving this, then it has this hold on us, this power on us, and we're not able to get beyond it. I describe grief in the beginning as this cloud that envelops you, and if you do the hard work of grief over time, it begins to shrink and becomes this thing you keep in your pocket that can be triggered by a familiar song or a memory or a smell or whatever. It's always with you, but it's no longer controlling you. It's no longer dominating you. So for me, one of the things I did was acknowledging I'm grieving, to claim it. If somebody says, "How are you today?" instead of saying that dreaded word that means absolutely nothing, fine. We all know you're not fine.
Right.
I would say, I'm really grieving today. That's all I had to say. And you don't expect anything from it, but it's kind of a rough day. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is maybe a 3, but I'm hoping tomorrow will be better. Some version of just letting people know this is the space I'm in today and it's okay. And I'm not expecting anything of anybody. I'm just acknowledging this is what I'm going through. And just that simple decision to name it, to call it what it is, and to acknowledge its presence, remove the hold it had on me. I found that I could get beyond it quicker that day. I could get kind of a hold of it quicker. If I needed to have an emotion, such as for me, it was a lot of crying. Even that didn't last as long because I knew I needed to do it. And so I did it for a time and went, okay, I think I'm done with that for a while. And some days I was, some days I wasn't. We had to revisit it, But yeah, I think you're exactly right. We deny the importance of grief. We don't acknowledge the importance of grief. And it is important, and it's everywhere. We grieve little things, like if this were my favorite coffee cup and it gets broken, I'm going to be sad for a moment if it has a memory for me or whatever. And yet then there's the big things. And each one in its own way is worthy of grieving.
I used to work for painting industry for the last 10 years. And I used to work for the last 6 years was with PPG. So I used to work for an American company. I used to run 4 different countries. And I was responsible for basically starting from the key account relationship management with the big oil and gas companies, down to supply chain, distribution, and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like I brought PPG to a successful point in Kazakhstan and in the Caspian Sea countries, and I always had a feeling that I could do some more. And being in the corporate environment, you also have like a lot of bureaucracy around. You have quite a few restrictions, right? So, and you can't really run as fast as you want to. So, and I felt like I was ready to move forward. And then I was telling you about the opportunity, the size of the opportunity, and then like the economy in Kazakhstan is capped basically, so you can't really grow your business to double, triple every other year. So it's just not possible due to the size of it. And the 360 painting came to light basically whenever I was thinking about my own company, and I knew that I didn't want to have a company back in Kazakhstan because I don't want to have that sort of a limitation depending on the economy and the politics, right? So I was just going through and doing my due diligence on many franchisees, many franchise companies, and 360 was one of them. I was blown away by their technology and by their proposition. So, and I just did a deep dive, and I was working on getting to know the other owners and then the inside processes for about 6 months before I made a decision. Yeah. Okay. So, and essentially, the painting industry was something that I was very comfortable with. And I'm a petroleum engineer by degree. And then I also hold the membership chair in the National Association of Corrosion Engineers. So that was very easy and just the natural transition for me, starting the painting company.
So when we deployed, we had a very unique job that we got to do. It was very incredibly violent, but fortunately I was surrounded by great leaders who trained us well. We lost a lot of really good brothers in arms. Eric was one of them. And I learned a lot during that time. It really gave me perspective and wisdom on the cost of freedom, the cost of war, what that looks like. And, you lose a little bit of your soul when you go do something like that. It gives you some good wisdom and perspective.
So you've mentioned about when you lose something, you gain something. Mm-hmm. So you just said something, and I'm really curious. If you lose a little bit of your soul, what did you gain?
So that actually took me a long time to work through. When you see something horrific, there are a lot of terrible things. Shootings in schools, horrific, right? People that have to witness that have PTSD for life, right? Anytime soldiers go into war, whether they're in the front lines or in the back, it is a traumatic event. I mean, you're leaving your home to go to a foreign country, and the things you see is crazy. I think it's a whole new level. I don't believe that God made us to take human life. And as a result, when you do take human life, I believe there's a little piece of you that it never goes away. So that took me a long time to work through. But I think ultimately what I gained from that was I believe now I understand, I have perspective on what the value of life really is. And it's caused me to live, you hear the cliche, like live every day like it's your last day. Mm-hmm. But do you really have the depth of experience that would lead you to do that? Most people don't. You can say it, you can put a poster on the wall, but I can tell you every day when I wake up, I'm like, well, Eric didn't get this day. My dad didn't get this day. And I think it changes how you approach everything.
Well, I go out to the lake and I've caught an alligator gar, which I didn't even know what that was. Mm-hmm. I was scared and excited all at the same time. It was like, I can't even it was bigger than this.
And don't they have teeth?
They have teeth. Yeah. And then I caught a baby one. And that was with jug line fishing, which I didn't even know what jug line fishing is. But I was like, oh my God, I'm so Texas. And I started saying y'all all the time, which I find is like the best word. Because in California, we would always say you guys or y'all. Mm-hmm. It's all encompassing. I love it. It's just y'all. So I use it often now.
So jug line fishing, that's something I haven't even done.
So you take a pool noodle and you wrap it in tape, and then there's a string attached in it. At the bottom of the string, there's a bucket that you put like concrete in, and along the line you have hooks coming out, and then you take goldfish and you put the live goldfish on the hooks. I'm so girly. Look at that.
Could you see it on my face? My face is going, oh, you do not look like someone who would be doing that.
Oh, yeah. Give me a jug line and a beer and I'm good. So, yeah, you drop the line and then you go back to the beach. You drink a few cocktails. And then when you see your line moving and you put like color tape on it, I guess, so it doesn't get confused for somebody else's jug line. Okay. And we went back and we had bass. This was in Lake Louisville right here. And it was like big. This alligator gar was huge. It was probably 4 feet long. It was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your fascinating level just went a little bit up for me.
So I don't walk around sharing this information off, and y'all should feel very lucky right now. Yeah.
Hey, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the highlights from past episodes. Stay tuned next week as we have another fascinating person with an inspiring story. Take care.
The Matt Hilton Show would like to thank our sponsors, Hilton Realty Advisors and Maria Leach with the First United Mortgage Group. The Matt Hilton Show would also like to thank our partners, the Who Do You Know organization. You can find out more at wdyk.org. If you'd like to contact Matt or know a fascinating person with an inspiring story that would make a great guest, reach out to the show at themattHiltonshow@gmail.com.